Liz, thank you very much for that. As we saw once again this afternoon in Question Time, references to the Federal Police inquiry that's now been launched into a cabinet leak. Now, this relates to yesterday's story where Tony Abbott denied leaking but was quoted in the Australian newspaper criticising a delay in the delivery of our future submarines. They now won't come into service, the first of them at least, until the 2030s. And the leak suggested, as reported in the Australian yesterday, that the draft white paper under Tony Abbott, when he was Prime Minister, suggested they'd come in earlier than that they would come in the late 2020s. Well, there's some disagreement about exactly what the former Abbott government and those senior ministers at the time were planning on in terms of the delivery of the future submarines. With me now is the man who was Defence Minister initially under the Abbott government, David Johnston. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Pleasure.
So when you were Defence Minister, what was the timetable for the delivery of the future submarines?
Well, there wasn't actually a timetable because we were starting from scratch. So first of all, we had to work out in detail what the operational concept for these boats was to be. Bear in mind, 2009 white paper said 12 submarines. In 2013, absolutely nothing had been done. So we had to begin the project from zero, effectively. Now, the phases are very simply that you establish your operational concept. Bear in mind, nobody needs what we need. Our product, our submarine is completely unique. There are only really three potential designers and constructors: ThyssenKrupp, DCNS, and Mitsubishi and Kawasaki Heavy Industries.
The Germans, the Japanese, French and the Japanese.
And so we've started the process. Now that process will run on for I don't know how long, but it's a process. Then there'll be contractual negotiation. Now the contractual negotiation will be the Australian government, the Japanese government and the German government or the French government and each of the players. Now when those negotiations are finished, we'll then move to the design phase. Now the design phase will take 7 years, minimum, and if you have a look at what's been said in estimates, that's, I think, about right. And then the construction phase will take another 7 years. And then the commissioning phase will take several more years, probably 2 to 3.
So were you flabbergasted to hear that it won't be until the early 2030s that we see the new submarines?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't, because I understand what's involved. I understand almost every step of the way. And when you go
So why then would Tony Abbott be flabbergasted?
Well, because I was into the detail, may I say, of the step-by-step process.
And he wasn't?
Well, I don't think it's fair to say that he wasn't, and it's not fair to say that he should have been. You know, he wants the advice of the department and his minister.
He's expressing serious concern here about a delay in the submarines under Malcolm Turnbull.
Well, can I tell you, it's a 30 to 40 year program. A 2 to 3 year delay, 4-year delay is nothing, absolutely nothing. We want to get it right. I'm pretty, relaxed about the whole thing. I'm just thankful we've started.
So there is no, are you saying there is really no delay?
No, there's no delay. No delay. Any delay is going to be because useful work is being done on what is going to be for Australia putting a man on the moon, effectively. The biggest diesel electric submarine in the world that has to go 2,000 nautical miles before it becomes operational. Now this is something no other country does. We haven't got the expertise to do it ourselves. We've got to have help, and choosing someone it's a partnership. You've got to choose the right partner.
Further to what you're saying, some advice that has now been released under Freedom of Information, coming from the Defence Materiel Organisation, the General Manager of Submarines there, David Gould, back in 2013. So when you first took the job after the election then, basically said, our driving aim is to deliver the first future submarines ready for operations in 2031. A decision to start construction will be required to ensure the submarine is ready for operation in 2031. Yep. So you were receiving advice then about this 2031 date?
Well, I think so, but the point is it's only advice from people who are not actually... We didn't have a constructor to talk to. We didn't have a designer to talk to. The point about this is that we undertook the Submarine Life Extension program in 2012-13, and Commodore Sander undertook that review to see if Collins could be extended beyond 2025. And the answer was yes, but it will cost. Now, so there was an anticipation that there would need to be an extension of Collins. All of these things are on the record.
Let me ask you about this, the Collins. So that's what we've got at the moment. How long can we stretch them out for? Can they really make it to 2030s?
Well, you can stretch anything out for as long as you want. It's a question of cost. And I note that the program for C-1000, the new submarines, is greater than $50 billion. So 1/3 is acquisition, $50 billion, 2/3 is sustainment.
150.
This is a $150 million program. This is bigger than what Gorgon have been doing at Barrow Island, than Chevron have been doing at Barrow Island. And it's going to be, you know, the 12th boat, I'm going to be 90. Now, what we are ostensibly saying here is a continuous build, in my opinion. And I'm very grateful that the government has put a clear, tested funding regime in place to take the politics, I hope, out of the funding of defence.
But will Collins defend us or do the role they're meant to do through till 2030 if we spend enough money?
Absolutely, but it will cost. It will cost.
Is it a fragile platform at the moment?
Very. In my opinion, it is extremely fragile.
So Tony Abbott is right on that front?
Oh yes, but that's been known for years and years and years. We've had trouble getting the intellectual property, we've had trouble making repairs and amendments. The underlying principles of the design have never really fully been understood. It's an expensive artefact. We're paying about $1 billion a year to keep 6 boats in the water, and we've probably only ever had 3 to 4 that are sort of in the water. So,
well, aren't there 6 in the water at the moment?
No.
Right. So
I think there's two being maintained. Waller is just about to come back, I suspect, and I think Farn comes under extensive repair in Adelaide at the moment.
Right.
But you know, they're vital to us. Our sea lanes are our lifeblood. We've got to have the best deterrent for those, to protect those, with all of the energy we are sending north. But they're expensive, very expensive.
Now, on the fact of this leak itself, I'm assuming you don't know who might have leaked this document.
Well, if the AFP are listening, no, I don't.
Okay. But what I wanted to ask you is, as someone who sat around that National Security Cabinet table, who would have access to take a document like that out of the room? How does that work?
Well, you know, it's very hard to say, but probably a lot of people.
Right.
But remember, they're draft documents, they're not the final document, they're a set of ideas, really. And I don't think they carry much weight, personally. What carries weight is the commitment and promise that governments make in the public domain. Like 2% of GDP to defence in 10 years. I think that's pretty substantial.
Now, the current Defence Department Secretary has also said this afternoon that you rush a project like the new submarines at your own peril. I guess he's saying what you're saying here as well.
Well, I very, very rarely disagree with the Secretary of the Department, may I say. He's absolutely right.
Yeah. And, well, there is some disagreement about how fragile the Collins are right now by the sounds of it, but you certainly believe there is a concern there.
Oh, look, it is a complex artefact. You know, the Spanish have built 4 boats and they're never going to see the water. They've got some design faults that are fatal, almost. Now, the problem with these 6 boats are that they are a 1970s, oblique 80s, early 80s design. They're getting old. Their useful life is eroded by what they do. They put themselves under enormous pressure at 200 and 300 metres depth. Our boats travel in hot water, in the equatorial waters, in the northern part of our regions.
It's a unique requirement.
It's a unique requirement. It takes a huge toll very quickly.
Final question. I know the competitive evaluation process is yet to complete, but how quickly do we need a decision on the new subs to even reach the 2031 target?
You know, I think there's an awful lot of huffing and puffing about this. The negotiations with whoever is chosen is going to take some long time too, because the contract is going to be extraordinarily complex, and the infrastructure investment, particularly, and I think it's going to be South Australia. Let's be blunt. I mean, the South Australians will celebrate for 5 minutes and then realise how much this is going to cost them. Electricity, water, police, hospitals. This is a massive project. This is like oil and gas for Western Australia. Now, you know.
Well, so David Johnston, thank you very much. Good to talk to you this afternoon. We'll take a quick break and then back with more on PM Agenda. Stay with us.